Hi, everyone. Welcome to the program, and really pleased today to have Mr. Shawn Finder, the founder and CEO of AutoClose from Toronto in Canada. So AutoClose is a sales engagement platform that's doing exceptionally well, and Shawn's got some great thoughts around modern sales strategies. So, Shawn, welcome to the program.
Stephen, very pleased to be here today with you.
Great. And Shawn, I want to start with you because you got a pretty interesting background. So you started off in pro tennis, and then you skipped a lot of steps and become an entrepreneur. You've done pretty well. So I would really like to hear a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I used to play semi-professional tennis. I had a world ranking at age 18, 19. And then what happened was at that point, there was never any Canadian tennis players that actually, made a living off tennis, where now, they're doing really well. But back then they never made a living off of tennis.
You don't have much grass there, right? It's all like ice and snow.
Well,
where do you play tennis?
We have outdoor in the summer. You can play on hard courts or the indoor courts. I've played tennis on grass courts once, and let me tell you, Stephen, I was the worst I've ever played. It was impossible to play on. Was the grass court? It was
it's
so
very
hard.
different. It's very different, but that's real tennis. Yeah, but there's not much grass court tennis anymore. So anyway,
yeah. And then kind of, when I wanted to go pro, my mom kind of sat me down and said, listen, you can either A, try and become a tennis professional where no one in Canada has ever made a living off it, or B, you can go the education route, do an MBA or do some sort of extracurricular, education and potentially do something with your life. Because I was always injury prone and stuff. So she gave me the option, but I didn't have much of a choice. So I went the educational route and got my MBA in finance.
Right. Okay. And then from there, like, where did you go after getting the MBA and getting qualified?
So that's a very interesting. So I didn't have really any world work experience. I just knew how to teach tennis and play tennis. So I did a co-op MBA program and started working in finance and taking a finance MBA. And it actually happened that one day I was on the elevator with my boss, and I just looked on the elevator and everyone kind of was just looking at the screen at the top of the elevator and not talking to each other. And I said, good morning to my boss. And he looked at me like, you don't do that in finance. Like I was always a very personal guy.
Right.
And then I sat upstairs in front of my computer. You can't talk to anybody. It was like always just doing, files for the traders. And I just realized one day that was not for me. And that's how I kind of got out of finance and more into the sales and entrepreneurial world.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're running AutoClose. You set that up, and I know you set up other companies. So what did you see in the sales world or in the sales tech world, where there's so many tools, so many products? Where did you see the problem that you thought you could solve?
Yeah. So it was actually about 6-7 years ago where I ended up going from finance and becoming a VP of sales for a computer software company. And the SDRs I would be providing, which we were just talking about, they'd be using lists. They were buying lists, and the lists were just inaccurate emails, inaccurate phone numbers. And I just said to myself, at that point, it was the old Jigsaw, which was a Salesforce product that got sold for hundreds of millions. I'm like, if these big companies can't even provide quality data, like I want to start a data company where it's not about the quantity and it's about the quality. So I found a big issue with the quality of data. And that's how I started my first company, which was Exchange Leads, which was our whole point was to, provide high quality data that had correct phone numbers and correct emails. And that's how I kind of got my first taste of entrepreneurship about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah. That is a real problem, and I see companies struggling with that all the time. They get these databases they pay good money for, and their salespeople spend half their day filtering the database that should be clean and should have high quality data. So why is that?
Well, first off, I think a lot of people, like you said, they waste a lot of money on data, but I would say it's not only the data they're wasting their money on. If you spend $20,000 on data, but you're paying a sales rep $100,000 and $50,000 of that money is going towards calling inaccurate phone numbers, you're actually wasting a lot more money on how much you're paying your sales rep than the actual data. So I think one of the biggest problems with companies is they give these database SDRs and they go, go make the calls and go emails.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is people change jobs so frequently. So you have to continue almost monthly, continue to validate those emails and make sure that you have correct phone numbers because, every day people are leaving jobs and starting new jobs.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's just a reality that the data is going to be aging and getting out. So you got to keep investing in, in maintaining that.
Yeah, 100%. I would keep investing because at the end of the day, your data is your engine, right? You have to have a good engine. You have to have good data to be successful in prospecting.
Yeah, sure. So Shawn, I know you got a lot of thoughts on prospecting and how we should go about that. So I wonder if you could share with us some thoughts on it, doing outbound and the sort of sequences and cadences we should be following.
Yeah. Yeah. So, every day, every year, sales is evolving into something different. And, back in the day, people would do door knocking, then cold calling and then emailing and then market automation. But, what it has come to today is you have to choose more than one channel. You can't just rely on making calls or sending emails or doing social selling or door knocking. You have to take 2 to 3 of those channels and combine them into your sequence. So for example, if you're going to do like a 7, 8, email or, touch sequence, make sure you're not relying just on one channel because it's going to be those other channels that are also going to help you get in front of that prospect.
Yeah. Yes. So step me through that. Like 7 or 8 does sound like a lot. And I do believe the number and other folks have told me that. But most folks won't do 7 or 8. Yeah. Tell us why we should be doing more than 2 or 3. And, a lot of us might feel like we're bothering the customer after 2 or 3 touches.
Exactly. And that's what most people think. And they're right. But the thing is, those 8 touches aren't all going to be tangible. They're not all going to be a call or an email. Like one touch might be just invite them on LinkedIn. So you're not actually bothering, you're sending them an invitation as a connection. Another one might be, look for a post on something they post on LinkedIn and just comment on it. Because all those different social touches that are a combination of your 8 in your sequence will also give you visibility with that prospect. Because on LinkedIn, they'll get on their newsfeed saying, Stephen Norman just commented on your post. And then when Stephen Norman actually sends me an email, I'll be like, oh, I remember Stephen. He wrote me on LinkedIn or he posted. So you don't have to bother them by emailing or calling. You can do different channels as well to get in front of them.
Yeah. All right. So that makes sense. So what else makes that cadence more effective? What are some of the techniques that you see working out there?
Yeah.
Or you're
so
using
a few of the techniques that I find really work is keeping it as personalized as possible and trying to really, not sell yourself, but really try and hit the pain point or the challenge of that prospect in the first 3 seconds of your email. And the reason why is most people nowadays are going to see that prospecting email, for example, on their phone. Now on their phone, they're only going to see your first 9 words that you say or you email. So if you're emailing about you, I like to call it like similar to like dating. If you go on a date and all you do is talk about yourself, you're probably not going to get a second date. But if you go there and you talk about how you can help that other person in that first 3-4 seconds, they're more likely to click on the email and read it. And third, take an action to that email.
Yes. Yeah. So what should that look like? Is this something that you need to do a lot of research on? Or do you have some like generic pain points you solve for sales managers and you target them with that? Or what's the best way to go about it?
That's a great question, Stephen. Ideally, before you do any prospecting, you need to know who your prospect is. So you need to know the buyer's persona of a prospect. So one thing that, I really try and, teach our team is, the way you're going to talk to somebody that might be a CEO or an owner of a company is different than the way you're going to talk to a VP sales, because someone that owns a company, ideally, they don't care who the demo is or what the demo is, but they just care about how much more revenue are you going to bring my company if I invest in this? What's my ROI going to be, et cetera. But when you talk to a VP of sales, they might be like, oh, well, I want my reps to get, 6, 7 demos a week of that product. So the way your messaging has to be is, to a CEO, you might want to talk about how you can increase their revenue. And for VP, you might want to talk about how you can get their sales reps more meetings, more leads. Because ideally, that's what a VP of sales wants, is their regional sales managers to get more leads and demos, because that work out to more closed won deals, which makes the VP look a little bit better.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because you see some folks, they're analyzing and researching. Some customers are hard to do research on.
Yep.
And to actually find some very specific hook. It's great. See, some clients are out there and you can see, they presented at a conference recently and they sort of shared their strategy. We can like get some clues out of that presentation there. That's ideal, right? And that's the poster child for researching a prospect and sending them a custom email, right? But most folks that like we sell to, say in the tech industry, tech people, they're not really posting a lot of that stuff. So we need to be like sort of guessing at what their pain point might be, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you can also see a lot on LinkedIn profiles, for example. You could see interests of people. I mean, I have some good prospecting emails come to me and they always bring up tennis, because they can see on my profile I play tennis.
Okay.
But it also just somebody mentioning tennis to me will put me in that positive mindset where like, oh, I'm so passionate about tennis that whoever would email me, I mean, whoever's listening to this, whoever emails me and mentions tennis on the email, I will most likely reply. And I get it all the time, but stuff like that, where at least somebody who's done some due diligence, some research will make me more responsive than somebody just comes and gives me a sales pitch.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is going to get attention. Yeah, compared to just a generic email. Yeah, I want to talk to you about my product. We've got the best sales engagement platform in the world. Like
everyone's got the best product.
Yeah. I think we're past that. Hopefully everyone on this who's listening to this show knows that we don't really lead with product. So definitely lead with something about the customer. As relevant and as specific as possible. So I think that's good. So anything else on email structure that comes to mind?
I would say, email structure, I would say, I mean, I usually like to say, as I said, the sequences, you want to have different channels. Subject lines, one thing I would really focus on is 3 to 4 words max. And the reason is the same reason why you want your first 3 seconds of your body paragraph to be hitting that challenge. Because if you send an email and they read it on their phone, they're only going to see the first 3 words of your subject line anyway. So if you're writing a 7-8 word subject line and they're going to look on their phone and see, Shawn Finder emailed me, they're only going to see 2 to 3 of those words. So that would be another tip. And one last thing, I see it all the time, and I try and actually correct it, is everyone talks about themselves in the first sentence. Like somebody will email me and be like, oh, hi, I'm Shawn Finder, the CEO of AutoClose and ABC. Well, you've emailed me, so you in my domain, you know what my company name is. I know what your name is because it's in your email signature. So don't be repetitive and introduce yourself again.
No, you're wasting 10 words there.
You're wasting the most important 10 words on talking about yourself, where they don't want to hear about you. They want to see that you can help them. Yeah,
absolutely. And what about length of the whole email? Like, have you got any guideline for that, or?
Yeah. So I usually say, the initial email you want to be, I would usually say 75 words. Yeah. But follow-up emails, ideally, sometimes you want to only be 3-4 sentences, because you're usually not going to make that sale by an email. You're going to make that sale by engaging over the emails, getting them on the call, and then building that relationship. So your follow-up sequences should be personalized, but it should be like, hey, just following up, I'd love 15 minutes of your time. I think we can hit, and then try and hit their pain points again. So in every part of that sequence, try and hit their pain points. And also, lastly, make sure you only have one call to action. Don't leave your phone number, your Calendly, and all these other things for them. Make it very easy for the prospect to get back to you. And I usually like to use Calendly, but some people use phone numbers. But don't have 2 to 3 different calls to action, because you're just going to confuse your prospect.
Yeah, I agree. I think you and I got some similar ideas on this. Yeah, so short, 75 words, up to 100 words possibly in the initial. Yep. Short follow-ups. Always focusing on pain point, always focusing on bringing some value. Your single call to action, I think, is really good. You don't want to give people lots of options and confuse them. And I don't know, how do you feel about attachments or sending any sort of extra information Did you ever do that? Is there a case for that?
You know what? I used to do it, but then I found out that actually sending too many attachment stuff on the email, especially for your cold emailing, it could actually put you into a spam filter or a promotions or marketing folder. So I do like, however, to start putting video in. Video is becoming huge.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Tell me about that.
So putting video in email is great. And, Go Video, which is a great tool. It's part of Vidyard's tool. They actually allow you to use the tool in your email sequences, but also you will receive an email with how much of that video the prospect watches. Therefore, if a prospect watches 90% versus 10%, I don't have to tell you who you should be prospecting to, but you should be prospecting to the 90%. So I think video email is very, very good. But, in a sequence, sometimes it's good to put some case studies, some attachments as well, just to build that trust.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I'd suggest don't go overboard with attachments. Again, it just gets confusing and, what are attachments usually about? They're usually about our product and how good we are. And,
talking about yourself again. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But I like your idea on video, and I've gotten some really good results with video. And because so few people are using it at the moment.
Yeah.
I think there's a window now, maybe it's for the next year, where it's still going to be unique. And so if you want to, because we've got to stand out, right? It's very crowded out there. Like the space you're in, I think you've got like 5,000 to 10,000, competitors with different SaaS solutions. And, I'm sure there's thousands in the sales space. So it's really important to stand out.
100%. And I think video really works well. Actually, one of my team members did had a story about using video that I can talk about, but it was a great way to use video. It was very strategic. We're still testing it out, but what he did was he basically took 20 to 25 Stevens, for example, in the computer software space. And he did the video, and in in one video, he said, "Hi, Steven."
Oh, wonderful.
In each video. So all these 25 Stevens thought it was a personalized video of Steven. And actually, I think it was 9 of the Stevens replied and said, "I really appreciate the personalized video."
Wow.
Not knowing that he just took the name Steven from the same space and personalized the video. So that was a good strategy that was a good story we had last week in our Monday morning meeting. I found it really funny, but it was something that we tried that was a little different.
Yeah, I think it's funny. It probably works because video is still so unique, but it's pretty bad, isn't it? It's just like those old email tools that just change the name on the top. Right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I want to recommend that. I think people should personalize one step more than just the name.
Yeah. But sometimes you just try little things differently. But yeah, it was something we tried. It was very funny. But maybe not recommended, but it was a good little story we had.
Yeah, that's good. So Shawn, okay, we talked a lot about the outbound and the prospecting function. Maybe we move to the next phase of the sale. And what do you like to do? Once you've got a live prospect, what's your thinking on what we need to be doing next?
So I think once we have the live prospect, the one thing that I think is very important is having some sort of process involved. So when we have a live prospect, we like to integrate a lot of different tools like our CRM with Calendly, with Zoom, etc. So what we try and do is we get the live prospect, and usually it might be an SDR who will then bring that to an AE. And the AE will obviously reach out and try and do the demo. But then, for example, if your product or service has, say you have a trial, then we'd have a customer success person that will ideally walk them through those 14 days and make sure they're taking the necessary steps to actually use your product or service. Because we find the way to convert prospects to clients is by you have to hold their hands through the process. And once they get to start using it and they understand the product, they're more likely to close than if they just are given the product. Here's a software, try it out and see if it works. Yeah.
Okay. So you see, if you don't do that, there's going to be a lot of break off at some point when they're trying to use the product, just because it's new and they're going to run into some barrier, or maybe they're going to be busy. They haven't got time to sort of solve that.
And that's it. I think salespeople sometimes have short spans. So in their head, if they can't figure something out in 30 seconds, they want to move on to the next thing. So for example, if they're using a sales tool and you have to connect your email or start a campaign, having someone go in and say, hey, this is how you start your campaign, this is how you connect your email, just make it as easy as possible for your prospect will help the conversion, because, at the end of the day, if you're in sales especially, you want to make money. So you don't want to be spending time trying to learn a tool. You want to be spending time having the tool do things for you to help you make money.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And what about some of the larger deals that you work on? Did you have another sort of, or a longer sort of cadence that you expect the team to go through and take the customer through?
Yeah. So, what we found is, with the larger companies, there's always more than one decision maker you have to almost hit on the way up. So you got to kind of reach out. Sometimes you can't really get to the decision maker right away because they want a few other people below them in the organization to see the product, feel the product, and then move up. So I think you have to have like a sequence to find out, at least get in the door. And then once you get in the door, start asking the right questions on what they're currently using. Because at the bigger companies, I find the quicker you can find a way to solve one of their biggest problems or challenges, they're willing to spend the money. But you have to figure out what is that challenge. But also, I found the best success I've had with big companies is finding something I don't even do, but I can almost consult for. So I can say, hey, we don't have a CRM, but this is the CRM that I would recommend for A, B, and C. So help them with something else, which will then, that builds the trust. And then when you actually bring in your product, they already have that trust with you to help you and move you through the funnel.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that works well for you, right? Because your customers, especially in your space, customers are pretty confused about what to do. There's no shortage of information that they're getting, but being able to sort out which tool to use, which CRM is going to integrate well with a dialer or going to integrate well with a contact manager or some other tool, our quoting tool and everything. I think if your sales folks have got some expertise because they're dealing with this stuff every day, bring that to the customer and it's going to build credibility for sure.
Yeah. And I think you just said it. I think sales leaders nowadays, the one thing they look at is consolidation. They want, because there's so many different CRMs, so many sales tools, so many marketing tools, they want the tool that is as easy to use and consolidates more than one thing. So if they can find a CRM that has email, phone, SMS, and everything they want to do in one, that's kind of platforms that senior leaders are looking for. And I think even going forward to 2020, I think that's very important that people are going to look for consolidation instead of having 5, 6 different tabs at the top of their computer screen that they have to input information all day.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Shawn. So we just talked before. I recently interviewed James Muir, who's the perfect close guy, and he gave us some closing techniques. And you mentioned that you've got a closing line that's pretty effective as well. So you give us some background to that and
okay,
talk us through it.
So I'm not going to take credit for it. It's actually my VP of sales who did it, and then I had a few people do it. And it really works really well. So what he'll do is when he gets the person on, for example, a demo, and they're very close, they're very interested, before he even goes, ask them, are you moving forward? He'll actually use this line. He'll say, Steven, so should we call Rhonda in accounting and get this deal signed today? And it works every time because for some reason, the name Rhonda is usually like, not usually, but sometimes it sounds like someone that's in accounting. So he uses that line. He goes, so should we call Rhonda in accounting? And every VP of sales who uses that, they house the phone. And usually within hours, the Panadoc is usually signed by someone in accounting. So that's one of our tricks. But I think
should we call Rhonda in accounting? They would love that.
So he's about 8 for 10 for every time you use that line, but everyone gets a good laugh. And it also gets people, to kind of like him as a person and builds it. But he always asks the same line. He goes, so you think we should call Rhonda in accounting to close that deal?
It's good. It's you don't take it so seriously, right?
Yeah.
Let's have
funny.
fun, right?
Yeah.
And I can see that working. That's good. And it's a good test. How close are they? They just needed a little push. Like they obviously like it. They're using it. It's got value.
Yeah.
But let's bring it to a head. Yeah. Why? All right. All right. So Shawn, what else would you like to share with the audience today? Anything else on your mind?
Yeah, there was one other thing I think I didn't mention about the sales sequences I wanted to just kind of bring up was
Yeah.
one thing that we found work was at the end of the sequence, so say you're on your last email, instead of just giving up, asking almost a question. So
Mm,
something like, Stephen, I've sent you a few emails now and I've called you. Just wondering if it's A, you're currently using a competitor, B, you currently don't have the budget, C, it's just bad timing, or D. I find that you're giving A, B, C, or D, you will get a reply. And they might say, hey, it's just, our budget's in June, but it also gives you open the door to follow up with that prospect down the road. So I think always asking that question helps with the engagement in the last email of that
yeah.
sequence.
So a break off email, which
Exactly.
there's a few floating around. So you like this, the multiple choice. And that's right. Often if you give customers a choice, that they will respond, right? And there's a few other formats. There's some I don't really like, but say, have you been abducted by aliens or something? Right? A little bit corny, but yeah, I think having a break off email in your sequence at the end, and actually the good ones do get a good response, and you might reactivate the sale. Or you'll get information. Yeah, we're not ready for another few months. So okay, you've got that, and you can diarize that for then.
Most importantly, you increase the chances of you getting a reply, right? And the whole point of prospecting is you want to start the engagement, start that conversation. So it does give you the opportunity to reach out now or in the future as well.
Yeah, very good. Well, Shawn, it's been a great discussion, and I think the audience would have got a lot out of that on how to manage our outbound, our sequences, some fun closing technique in there as well. So, and also your pretty interesting background, you're through tennis, the MBA, finance, and into what you're doing now. So really great to meet you.
Thanks for having me on, Stephen.
Okay, we'll talk soon, and thanks everyone for tuning in, and look forward to engaging with you more. Bye for now.